Yokoso minna, welcome back to the channel. I hope you all enjoyed part 1 of my deep dive into the names of Dragon Ball. Let's continue with part 2. I've got a couple of surprises in this one for you. Let's get started. Hajime yo. Okay, so here we are with Tankoubon Volume 2, and we're gonna dive in immediately with the first group of enemies they encounter, the Usagi Dan. Now, Usagi means rabbit. Here in the manga, it's written in katakana for some reason, and Dan means a group or an army. For example, Gundan means army. So yeah, the rabbit group or the rabbit army. Now, Toriyama-sensei apparently chose to write the word Usagi, rabbit, in katakana, probably for stylistic choices. But what's interesting to note, if we look at the picture here, we see that their uniforms have like a drawing of a rabbit head on the front. But on the side sleeve, they sport a kanji, and that kanji is actually the kanji for Usagi, meaning rabbit. So there you have the kanji as well. Now, the leader of the pack is, they refer to him as Oyabun. Oyabun is a word that exists in regular Japanese. It actually means the leader of the pack. It's often used in reference to leaders of, let's say, gangs, mafia groups, and so on. You can often see that in Japanese TV series about Yakuza and so on. Usually it's the somewhat older leader of the group. So they refer to him as Oyabun. And we see that he's dressed in Chinese-inspired clothes with also, again, that same kanji on it, Usagi, meaning rabbit. Now, a little sidestep here, because I thought it's interesting to mention. At the end of this chapter, Son Goku defeats them, and he uses his Nyoibo to take them up to the moon, leaving them there. And for the uninitiated, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Why would he drop them off at the moon? And what the hell are they doing there? Now, there is a folklore in Japan and in children's tales that states that on the moon there are rabbits making mochi. Now, what are mochi? Mochi are Japanese sweets, usually white colored, made of rice actually, and they're very stretchy and chewy. Now, the way they make them is they have like a wooden barrel cut out of a thick piece of wood. You have a person with a wooden hammer hitting the mochi, and then you have the other person turning over the mixture so that you get a very even, stretchy, chewy substance eventually. And from there, they make those sweets called mochi. Usually they put something in them, then they make them round shaped, bowl shaped, or egg shaped. Inside you have like sweet bean paste or other things. A very popular kind of sweets in Japan, quite traditional also. And there's a folklore tale that says that on the moon there are actually rabbits making these okashi, these sweets. Now, where did that folktale originate from? Actually, and that's quite interesting, depending on where you live in the world, the craters on the moon, the shape of the moon looks different actually. Because the angle from where you look at the moon is different whether you look at it from America, Europe, Asia, and so on. So when you look at the full moon, from Japan, this is how the moon looks. And you see these dark-shaped, crater-like surfaces. If you put them together, you can kind of imagine it looks like a rabbit holding a wooden hammer, creating mochi. And that's actually where the story originated from. The folklore tale finds its origin in the shape of these crater-like structures. And I thought it was kind of fun how these enemies, being the Usagi Dan, after they are defeated, were deposited on the moon by Son Goku, which is where the folklore tale originally comes from. So that was quite interesting, I thought. Okay, next up we get the next bunch of enemies, which will be mainstays in the series. Pirafu Ichimi. Now, Ichimi means a group or a party of people. Pirafu is the leader of the gang, so Pirafu Ichimi means Pilaf's gang or Pilaf's group. Now, if we zoom in on the leader of the bunch, Pirafu, he's also referred to as Pirafu Daio. I'll take the latter part first. Daio, written in kanji, means great king. Literally. So the great king Pirafu. Now, where does the word Pilaf come from? We see that it's written in katakana, meaning it's a loan word again. Pilaf is actually, and we're continuing the tradition here of using words that refer to Chinese food, actually means stir-fried rice. It's a quite popular dish in Japan. You can find it in the supermarket as well. Here on the screen you see an example of ebi pilaf, and it's even written in English under it, shrimp pilaf. So ebi means shrimp, pilaf means that kind of stir-fried rice. It's as I said, it's quite commonly used in Japan. When you need to whip something up quickly, you just buy a bag at the supermarket, you heat it up, and you have your dinner ready. I've had it a few times in Japan. It's quite tasty, and you can actually also make it yourself if you want. Now, also interesting to note is Pilaf has a kanji on his clothes. Now, you would think it would be a Japanese kanji, but in fact, it's a Chinese hanji. So I'm not going to pronounce it because I don't speak Chinese. But if we take a look and we take the Japanese variation of those characters, then we get... Right at the top, you see the original Chinese characters, the hanji, which are exactly the same as we see on his clothes. And then under the arrow, you see the Japanese variation, which is pronounced chahan. And chahan means, again, stir-fried rice. But this variety is a little bit different. You see it on the screen here. These kinds of dishes are usually stir-fried rice with some soy sauce or oyster sauce added to the mix, giving it more of a brown, yellowish kind of tint. But I thought it was kind of interesting to note that Pilaf's clothes also have a character on it in Chinese, also referring to stir-fried rice. Now, his two companions in the group are Shu and Mai. I'm going to take them together because separately their names don't mean anything. They're written in katakana. The top one is Shu, the bottom female one is Mai. Separately, it doesn't mean anything, but if you put them together, you get Shu Mai. And Shu Mai is a kind of Chinese dumpling. So here we are again with the Chinese food. Ebi shumai is an example you see here on the screen. Again, the prawn variety, but you have various kinds with pork or beef in it. You can also find this very easily in Japanese supermarkets. It's quick to whip something up. You just put them in the microwave. So as you can see here on the package, ebi, and under it you see shu mai, which is exactly the name of the two characters we just saw. So they're the first ones to gather all 7 Dragon Balls. The Dragon Balls in the manga are referred to as Dragon Boru, which is just the Japanese transcription of the English word Dragon Ball. No big mystery there. But what I thought was quite interesting is the following. So each Dragon Ball has 1 star. 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, up to 7 stars. They are referred to in the manga by Toriyama-sensei as with the kanji you see here. So you see you have all 7 of them. The first kanji is a numerical kanji, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 1 up to 7. The second kanji means hoshi, means star, and the third kanji means kyu or dama, means ball. So if you would show me those kanji just on face value, I would pronounce it as ise dama or ise kyu. But Toriyama-sensei put furigana on top of those kanji. Furigana is a helpful way to show you how you should pronounce those kanji. And for example, if we take the first one, he puts the pronunciation ishinchu on it, which is completely different than how normal Japanese would pronounce these characters. The second one is arishinchu or lianshinchu, sanshinchu, sushinchu, ushinchu, liushinchu, chi-shinchu. So doesn't sound very Japanese. And actually what he did here is take the apparently, according to some Japanese sources, he took the Chinese pronunciation, or as close as he could get in Japanese, of these characters, and put that as the phonetics on top of the kanji. So since the story is inspired by the Chinese folklore tale of Sayuki, I thought it was quite interesting that for the Dragon Balls, he didn't use the Japanese pronunciation, but he put a Chinese pronunciation on them. So from there they summon the dragon, Shenron, and again, this time written in kanji, but on top of it, also he writes katakana, how we should pronounce it. And again, the pronunciation doesn't match the Japanese pronunciation. So we have 2 characters. The first character, kanji, is shin or kami, meaning God. And the second one is ryu or tatsu, meaning dragon. So the godly dragon makes perfect sense, right? So I would pronounce it at face value as Shinryu, the godly dragon. But Toriyama-sensei gives his name, the phonetics, Shenron, which you see written in katakana between brackets. And here again, he used the Chinese pronunciation of these characters over the Japanese one. So I thought it was interesting. Not only the dragon has its name inspired by the Chinese pronunciation, but each Dragon Ball individually as well. Okay, so later on that night, Goku transforms into a huge ape for the first time. What's interesting, and I think most fans of Dragon Ball would say, oh, look, it's Ozaru, right? His Ozaru form. But actually in the beginning of the manga, at this point in the story, it's referred to as Kaibutsu zaru. Now, zaru is saru, individually taken, the last kanji, means ape. So that remains the same. The first part, Kaibutsu, means actually monster. Kaibutsu is monster. So monster ape, actually, which is different than they refer to later on in the story. So in the beginning of the Dragon Ball manga, especially as long as Son Goku is still little, is still a child, they refer to this form as Kaibutsu zaru, and it's only later on when we get to the Saiyajin arc that we see this form being referred to as the Ozaru form, the big ape form. So I thought it was interesting to note that this form changed name as the lore developed and as Toriyama-sensei started creating the whole Saiyajin lore. He changed the name of this form to Ozaru instead of Kaibutsu zaru. His lifelong companion, Kuririn, joins him to train under the auspices of Kamisenin. Kuririn is written in katakana. So you would think, okay, again, his name is taken from a loan word, from a foreign word introduced into Japanese. But I have looked everywhere. I've looked at a lot of reference works. I looked up various Japanese websites. Nowhere could I find any word that would be derived from Kuririn, or that Kuririn would be derived from. It doesn't carry any meaning. Although there are two hypotheses, or there's one hypothesis, I would say, that I found. Later on in the story, he gets a girlfriend. Kuririn gets a girlfriend, and her name is Marlon. Marlon is actually the Japanification, so to speak, of the French word for brown, marron. So brown, okay, right? And Kuririn, kuli, can mean chestnut, which is also brown in color. So there's a far-fetched theory that says maybe he was thinking ahead. He put kuli in his name of Kuririn, and then with the meaning brownish or chestnut colored. And then later his girlfriend, Maron, has also a name that refers to the color brown. I think it's pretty far-fetched, but I thought it was a worthwhile hypothesis to mention. In an interview, however, in one of the reference works I've checked, Toriyama-sensei actually openly stated that at the time he was going to use Kuririn as just a throwaway character. He was going to use him just for a couple of panels at first, and then just discard the character. So he didn't want to put too much effort or thought into his name, and he just randomly named him Kuririn without attaching any meaning to the name. So poor Kuririn, who has been a member of the main cast for a very long time in Dragon Ball, actually was originally just a throwaway character whose name doesn't even carry any meaning. So that's the official story, actually, by Toriyama-sensei. So Kamisenin then tasks them with finding a sexy girl for him, and that's when they meet Lanchi. So Lanchi, written in katakana, so again it's a foreign word, the typical part about her is that when she sneezes, her hair color changes, as does her character traits, going from a very naive sweet girl to a very aggressive one with blonde hair. So Lanchi just means lunch. It comes from the English word lunch. So again, we stay in the whole theme of food and drinks. It's just the English word lunch as you would use it. And with that, we have finished the second volume. Please do join me in the next video as we continue then with volume number 3. Take care. See you guys later. Bye. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, tap the notification bell, and sound off in the comments. And hey, while you're here, why not check out another video?